have the taste of it now, urging me to throw off any remaining caution. I wait and watch, inching closer, then open my mouth fully to suck it right in. As I do so, I double my body to the right to turn my head downstream. 60 feet above, on a slanting rock beside the river, an electronic buzzer sounds, and a dim green light shows thick nylon line rolling off an improbably large reel. Hands reach down and pick up the rod, then push the drag lever forward. With the spool now locked, the growing tension in the line starts to transmit in both directions. What happens now could determine how this ends. Not enough of a pause and the strike may not set the hook. Too much and the bait may be ejected. So there's an instant of intense weighing and calculation before the rod pulls up and back and is wrenched down in response. It's the moment this creature, which until then had existed only in my imagination, becomes real. Chapter 2. Fishing in Mind. One day in 1999, a man pulled a gun on me in Brazil. But the only time I've been shot was in England. I was sitting on the ground at the edge of a small pond, legs pulled up in front of me, with my arms wrapped round my knees, when something ripped through the foliage some yards to my right. It took a few moments to work out what it was. The farmer was on the far bank, and he'd taken a shot at a coot in front of me. He couldn't see me because I was underneath a willow tree, obscured by its trailing branches. All this had barely registered when a second shot ricocheted off the water, this time just a couple of feet away, having narrowly missed the bird, which was now squawking in alarm. The next shot hit me in the right armpit. Recalling this now, I have trouble believing the reaction of my much younger self. As a teenager, I was pretty useless in a number of respects, but there was nothing wrong with my reflexes, and I had a well-developed sense of moral outrage. But I just continued to sit there. Having verified that there was no broken skin under my thick camo jacket, I concluded that it was probably just an air rifle, which he didn't fire again. At this point, everyone who has heard this story assumes I must have been guesting, as the quaint euphemism goes. But no, I was there legally as a paid-up club member. So what was it? Why didn't I dive for cover and/or start yelling at the farmer? What I have to remember is how seriously I took my carp fishing. I was in stealth mode, fishing close in, and I didn't want to add to the disturbance. But more importantly, I had recently invented twig-hung crust. And although it was possible, as happened with the jet engine and nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy, that somebody somewhere else had come up with the same idea, I didn't want to draw attention to my field tests. The challenge with the carp in this pond, which sits on the edge of a Suffolk village, was that they were very wary of floating bread crust, which back then was everybody's go-to surface bait. Normally the carp here would ignore it completely, but where the willow branches trailed in the water, they would sometimes seem curious. The trouble with a freeline crust, though, a hook on the end of the line with no float, weights or anything else, was that it would always drift out of this zone, whereupon it would receive no more attention. Trying the obvious alternative, a crust anchored in position by a running lead on the bottom, would spook the carp when they bumped into the line. My wheeze was to position myself to the side of the willow's trunk and swing an underhand cast straight out, towards a partial gap in the semicircular curtain of branches. In the middle of this gap was a single dangling branch that stopped 2 feet short of the water, with a horizontal twig projecting. My aim was to cast the bait over this twig, then tease it back into a position where there was no line on the surface to alarm the fish. A belly of slack line between rod tip and twig would allow the bait to move freely if taken. Now the bait stayed in the zone long enough for any patrolling carp to investigate. My position under the tree also meant less chance of attracting the ducks, which were used to being fed by people and could read any human actions that were bread-related. What I hadn't reckoned with was that some of them could also read the minds of fish. On 2 occasions a duck spotted my bait at the precise moment when a dark shape was tilting up towards it. After pausing for a couple of heart-pounding seconds, I had to lift the bait, then flick it clear